replaying in your body stories you never lived. In the next few minutes, you will feel something shift, the breath dropping, the shoulders loosening, a slowing that doesn't come from outside. There is a physiological state operating inside you at this exact moment, a survival mode that took over your nervous system without asking permission. This state was not born from your life. It came before you. That is why rest doesn't solve it, why the mind won't switch off, why your body remains on alert even when nothing calls for defense. Closing this video now means continuing to carry what was never yours, and perhaps never discovering that there is a way out. What installed this pattern in your body, how it perpetuates itself, and the ritual that begins your restoration. All of this will be revealed from now on. The name of this pattern is inherited survival mode, a complete configuration of the nervous system that was installed before your first memory. It is not ordinary stress, not anxiety, not a personality trait. It is a physiological reconfiguration that arrived through the lineage, inscribed in markers that altered how your genes express themselves. This state took hold of your breath, your posture, your perception, and you, without knowing it, spent your entire life sustaining something you never chose. Restoration begins when you recognize this pattern and learn to unwind it through the body. This video delivers a 3-movement ritual that initiates the recovery of your inner axis, the vertical center that organizes presence, clarity, and creative capacity. This is not an abstract promise. It is a change you will measure in your own flesh before this video ends. The ancient Hermetic schools already described this axis as the column of fire that runs through the body and connects the vital centers. They called the body a living scroll, a surface where not only the marks of the present life are inscribed, but the traces of previous generations. The initiates knew that certain tensions do not belong to those who carry them. They belong to those who came before. Neuroscience mapped this phenomenon in another language. Stephen Porges showed how the nervous system assesses danger without going through consciousness, and how that assessment can remain calibrated for threat, even when the environment has already changed. Epigenetics revealed that descendants of people exposed to extreme trauma are born with altered stress receptors, and the fascia, the tissue that envelops every muscle and organ, molds itself to the dominant pattern and perpetuates it structurally, generation after generation. Now you will learn to recognize this state in your own body, not as a concept, but as direct experience. Notice your breath in this moment. Does it drop down into the abdomen or stop in the chest? Notice your shoulders. Are they relaxed or have they crept up toward your ears without you asking? Feel your jaw. Is it loose or are your teeth touching with pressure? These are not random tensions. They are signatures of the survival mode operating now. The solar plexus, the region just below the sternum, is one of the points where this state expresses itself most clearly. When the nervous system is in defense, this area contracts as if protecting something vital. The diaphragm locks. The breath becomes short and high. The entire body organizes around this central contraction, and you don't even notice because you've never known another way of being. This pattern became invisible through its very constancy. Also, observe your visual field. In survival mode, the eyes fixate, focus narrows, peripheral vision diminishes. The system is scanning for threats. Even if you are just sitting at home, notice whether you can soften your gaze. Let the eyes receive light instead of seeking danger. The difficulty you might feel now is not weakness. It is the reflection of a calibration that happened before you ever chose. Distorted neuroception affects everything. Neutral faces appear hostile. Silences feel threatening. Offers of closeness trigger distrust. The body responds before the mind evaluates, and the mind then creates justifications for what the body has already decided. You are not being paranoid. Your system is operating with a danger map drawn by those who came before, and that map remains active even when the territory has changed. The cost of this state is immense. Creativity requires access to physiological safety, and a body in defense cannot create, only react. The energy that should flow into projects and expression is diverted to keep vigilance running. Relationships become minefields because intimacy requires exactly what survival mode does not allow. Lowering the guard, decisions are made from fear, not from clarity. Life happens to you, not from you. What you have identified so far is not a personal defect. It is a physiological state that can be reorganized. The ritual you are about to learn works in the 3 layers where this pattern installs itself: the breath, the bodily boundaries, and the inherited load. 3 movements that, done in sequence, initiate the restoration of the axis. This is not a complex technique. It is somatic precision, touching exactly where the pattern expresses itself and offering the system different information. The first movement is the descending breath. Sit with your spine upright, but without rigidity. Place one hand on your chest and the other on your abdomen. Inhale through the nose, letting the air descend. The hand on the abdomen should move first and more. Now exhale through the mouth, slowly prolonging the outbreath until you feel the belly draw in. The exhale should last at least twice as long as the inhale. This rhythm sends a direct signal to the vagus nerve. There is no immediate threat. Continue for 5 full cycles. With each exhale, allow the shoulders to drop a little more. Do not force, just allow. The nervous system does not respond to commands. It responds to signals. The prolonged exhale is one of those signals. It communicates safety in the language the body understands. If you feel the breath wanting to speed up, simply observe without correcting. That is the old pattern trying to take over again. Return to the slow exhale and let the body relearn. The second movement is the stabilizing touch. A body in survival mode often loses a sense of its edges. The boundaries become diffuse. The skin feels less present. Firm touch on specific points activates mechanoreceptors that inform the nervous system where the body begins and where it ends. You will touch 3 points in sequence, maintaining steady pressure for 30 seconds on each one. First point, the base of the skull, where the neck meets the head. Use the fingertips of both hands and press with firm, moderate pressure. Breathe as you maintain the touch. Second point, the center of the sternum, in the middle of the chest. Use the palm of one hand and press as if anchoring the heart in place. Third point, the solar plexus, just below the ribs. Press with a flat hand and feel what is underneath. Perhaps tension, perhaps emptiness, perhaps warmth. Any sensation is information, just register it. This touch is not massage. It is the reconstruction of boundaries. With each point you press, the nervous system receives the message that there is a body with defined edges, not a diffuse mass in constant alert. The fascia, which molded itself to the defense pattern, begins to receive a different instruction. Do not expect immediate relaxation. Expect presence. The sense of being more inside the body than before. The third movement is the gesture of giving back. This is the most subtle and the most potent. You will recognize that certain tensions do not belong to you, and you will return them. It is not a rejection of ancestry. It is discernment. It is recognizing that your ancestors carried what they needed to carry to survive, and that you can honor them without repeating the weight. Some loads have fulfilled their function. They can be released. Place both hands over the abdomen, one atop the other. Inhale deeply and, on the exhale, imagine that your hands are gathering from the body an old tension, something that did not originate with you. On the next inhale, slowly move your hands away from the abdomen, as if you were removing that load. And on the exhale, open your arms to the sides and release your hands. Palms facing down, returning to the earth what you no longer need to carry. Repeat 3 times. It may seem far too simple, but the nervous system operates through gestures, not arguments. When you move the body with the intention to let go, something inside registers that permission. It is not magic, it is the language that the fascia, the vagus nerve, and the autonomic circuits understand. You are communicating, through movement, that the inherited state of emergency can be ended, that you choose to stop holding what was never yours. When the 3 movements are complete, observe what has changed. The breath has likely found a slower rhythm. The boundaries of the body feel more defined. You feel the skin, the weight, the presence, and something subtle begins to emerge, a sense of verticality that requires no effort. The inner axis coming back into alignment. The head stops floating, disconnected. The feet feel the ground. The chest opens without you needing to force it. This is the difference between defense and presence. Defense is a global contraction that anticipates danger. Presence is the availability that responds to what exists now. You have just given your nervous system the experience, perhaps for the first time, that it is possible to exist without constant vigilance. This does not erase decades of conditioning in minutes, but it begins a path, and the body, once it knows this path, can return to it. Hadley woke before the alarm, not out of discipline, but out of vigilance. At 42, working as an elder caregiver, she knew tiredness well. But this was different. It didn't come from work. It came from within, from a place prior to any effort. The shoulders were already rising before getting out of bed. The chest was already closing before the first thought. And there was something else. A tension in the solar plexus she had felt for as long as she could remember, as if she carried a weight she didn't know how to name. For years, Hadley tried to solve this as an emotional problem. She did therapy, took anxiolytics, practiced guided meditation. Each approach helped for a while, then the pattern returned. She began to believe that this was simply who she was, a tense person, anxious by nature. The idea that another way of inhabiting her own body could exist didn't even occur. Survival mode had become so constant that she confused it with identity. The change began in a weekend workshop on somatic trauma. The facilitator asked the participants to observe where the breath stopped in the body. Hadley realized that hers never dropped below the chest. Never, in 42 years, the air had not reached her abdomen a single time naturally. When the facilitator explained that this was a signature of a nervous system calibrated for defense, and that it could be reorganized, something inside Hadley cracked, not from pain, from recognition. In the following months, she practiced daily the movements she learned: descending breath, touch on the anchoring points, gesture of giving back. The changes were not dramatic at first. They were precise. The shoulders dropped a few centimeters. The jaw stopped locking during sleep. The solar plexus, which she had always felt armed, began to show moments of opening. For the first time, Hadley could be in a conversation without scanning the environment. She could receive a compliment without contracting the chest. She could rest without guilt. The deepest transformation came in relationships. Hadley realized she had spent decades reacting to people from defense, interpreting neutral tones as criticism, silences as abandonment. When the pattern began to unwind, she could finally see others without the filter of danger. Her son commented on a visit, "Mum, you're different. More here." She knew exactly what he meant. For the first time, she wasn't sustaining an inherited state. She was present in her own body, in her own time. Check now what has changed in you. Is the breath lower than when this video began? Has the solar plexus lost some of its tension? Has the jaw softened? These are real markers. Place the palm of your hand at the center of the sternum and press gently for 30 seconds, feeling the warmth spread. This gesture anchors the state you accessed. Repeat it whenever you notice the old pattern trying to return. It is your immediate entry point to the axis. Also, create your point of return, a short phrase you say internally, a prolonged exhale, and a subtle postural adjustment, shoulders down, feet on the ground, spine lengthened. Use this sequence whenever you feel defense taking over again. You don't need to repeat the entire ritual. The body already knows the way. It is enough to remind it that another way of being exists, and it finds the axis on its own. What you discover today is not theory. It is the truth inscribed in your own flesh. That tiredness rest never solved. That vigilance that had no object. That tension you carried without knowing where it came from. None of it was your failure. It was an inherited survival mode, a physiological configuration that took hold of your body before you had a voice to refuse. You spent years trying to fix something that wasn't broken in you. It was inscribed in you. And now, for the first time, you have a path to return what was never yours. The poet Rainer Maria Rilke wrote, "The only path is inward." But he was not speaking of mental introspection. He was speaking of the body, the territory where all real transformation begins and ends. The axis you began to restore today is not an abstract concept. It is the vertical line that organizes your presence, that connects thought and instinct, that allows you to exist without needing to defend against everything all the time. When that axis aligns, life stops happening to you and returns to happening from you. God did not place you in this body for it to be a prison. The original design was another, a temple capable of feeling, creating, loving, resting. Survival mode obscured that design, but did not erase it. It remains intact, waiting to be rediscovered. What you did today was take the first step in that direction. Not through mental effort, but through the simplest and most revolutionary gesture that exists, teaching the body that it can stop carrying what does not belong to it. You have held for far too long stories you did not live, tensions that did not arise from you, defenses that were calibrated for dangers you never faced. Each breath that descends, each touch that anchors, each gesture of giving back is a silent declaration that this cycle can end here. Not tomorrow, not when circumstances allow, now, in the body you inhabit, at this exact moment. The life you postponed while carrying others' weight is waiting. It does not require you to be perfect, healed, or completely free. It requires only that you begin to inhabit your own axis, one breath at a time, one gesture at a time, one choice at a time. The body that learned to defend can learn to live, and that learning begins the instant you decide to stop carrying what was never yours. If this video resonated with you, leave your like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. This helps us bring this wisdom to more people who need to awaken. If you wish to directly support Inner Temple's mission and help this knowledge reach those still trapped in inherited patterns, consider becoming a channel member. Your contribution keeps the flame of this work alive. I want to know what changed in your body. Write in the comments, "I stop carrying what I did not live and restore my inner axis." This affirmation seals your presence on the path of embodied consciousness. Share this video with someone you know who carries too much weight, someone who needs to discover that there is a way out. And don't stop here. Click on the screen and dive into another transformative video on the channel. Every step taken toward your own body is a step taken toward your own life. Remember, there is an entire life waiting on the other side of the weight you just released.